So that brings us to the beginning of the second part, which is a much awaited topic of the divorce, separation, and annulment. I believe many of us are ready to learn also about that. We give glory to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, it's now, and ever shall be, a world without end. Amen. With these words of giving glory to God, who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I welcome each and every one of us to this second part. And for those who are continuing, I wish you God's grace as we continue in this aspect of marriage, looking at it from the canonical point of view. Canonical point of view. And as you see today, we are focusing on the part of annulment, because that is what a lot of us know. So today we want to ask the question, what is annulment? What is annulment? You will be surprised to know that in the Catholic Church, there is nothing called annulment. The Catholic Church does not practice annulment. So where does this thing come from? I do not know whether many of you have always noticed, whenever I have put it in the topic, annulment has always been in quotation mark. And as you see it put here, it is also in red quotation mark. It is all annulment is a guy name, it's a nickname, it's a pet name for what is technically called declaration of nullity. So in the church, we practice what is called the declaration of nullity and not annulment. Many people like to call it annulment. That's why we use the term annulment so loosely, because to annul something means to cancel it. And when you cancel something, that means that you have divorced it, you have canceled it. So annulment is another word for divorce. And we have said that divorce cannot happen in the house of God. So technically, there is nothing like annulment in the Catholic Church or in among Christians, but there is what we call the declaration of nullity. What does it mean? It means you declare that which is already existing. When you go and find gold from the ground, you do not produce it. The people who mine gold don't produce gold. They just discover it. So discovering of gold is not the same as producing of gold or you making the gold. So this, when we deal with marriage, nobody on earth has the power to dissolve marriage. Only God through death can dissolve marriage. Neither can there be annulment. You can only declare that it is what? Null. What does it mean? It means therefore that when we see any marriage, we assume that that marriage is valid. If you will remember, I have said time and again at the beginning of this session that not all marriages were blessed by God or were blessed by or supposed to be married. So sometimes we assume that it is married, but truly, if the standing is not correct, then that marriage is not valid from the beginning ab initio. That means that right from the beginning, it was not married, but it was presumed to be married. In law, we say there was a wedding, but there was no marriage. I think you can also say it. Sometimes there are weddings, but those weddings are not marriages. They are not marriages. And those are the case. If you want to be able to free yourself from marriage, you may want to send your marriage to the Catholic tribunal for it to examine if that marriage can be declared null and null. It can be declared null. That means that it didn't exist. It must be declared. It is not made. You don't cancel it. You don't divorce it. You don't annul it. No. It is not that. But you and I know that the term annulment simply is another name. It's an unfortunate name for the Catholic meaning of the declaration of nullity. Declaration of nullity. Now let me use an analogy. When a woman gives birth to a child, we call that woman a mother. Now the question is, At what point does she cease to be a mother to the child? The woman is always a mother. Even if the child is stubborn, the woman is a mother. And you can also not, you can decide to say, I disown you, mama. But the fact is that it's your mother. The only thing that can make you lose your mother, we know, what is it, will be death. So that is with marriage. Once the two get married, nothing can separate them. There may be two things, at least two things that we know that can separate them. One is death. When the child dies or the mother dies, then the child and mother relationship is finished. Once there is death, child-mother relationship is finished. The same way, once there is death, husband-wife relationship is finished. So we do not, once there is death, what else can bring it? What about if it is possible to prove that that child that the woman thought was her child is actually not her child? If you can prove that what the woman thought was her child is actually not her child, then she can safely do away with that child, and you will not say that she has abandoned her child. So you do not say that somebody has abandoned the child when it has been proven that that child is not her child, even though the child has been with the woman for maybe 10 years or 15 years. The same way, maybe two people were considered married, but it can be proven that their marriage was not actually valid in the first place. If it can be proven, then the two of them can be asked to go their separate ways, because indeed they were not married. They only had a wedding, but they didn't have the marriage. That is why I tell you people, I tell all of us that let us focus on marriage. Let us prepare for marriage, not just the wedding. Because as for the wedding, it is just one day. Even one day itself, it doesn't reach. It is not even 3 hours or 5 hours, 2 hours or 3 hours, it is finished. So prepare for your marriage and marry well. So we go on to the next thing. So you see, when there is a marriage, what does the priest say? Does the priest say, I join you as husband and wife? Or the priest say, I declare you as husband and wife? Certainly, the priest can say that I declare you husband and wife, but it is not the priest who joined them. As many of you say that it is Father Raymond who celebrated our marriage for us. Father Raymond has never celebrated marriage before. In fact, he is a priest, so he cannot marry. And he never celebrates any marriage. It is the couple who celebrate their marriage. It is their consent. Father Raymond only is an assistant. Any priest or pastor does not celebrate any marriage. So when the two have celebrated their marriage and they are married, you only what? Declare it. You only uncover it. You only lift the veil and you say that, yes, this is what has been done. So in the same way, when the marriage is to be declared null and void, you cannot take the same power and say, I break it. That is why I keep saying that no power, no court, whatever, you can decide, the court can, yes, do it, but it doesn't have the power to break that spiritual bondage. It can break that civil requirement, but not the spiritual reality. So the same way, the priest or the pastor, when he's celebrating the marriage or when he's assisting at the marriage, he only what? Declares. So the same way, when the marriage is to be declared null, the church, that's what? Declares it. The church goes into it again, looks at the merit of the marriage and see that is the marriage valid or not valid. Don't worry, I am going to explain what makes a marriage valid and what makes a marriage not valid. So take your time and follow me as we go. And hear me say that all the church does is that it declares. It declares you husband and wife, and it declares you not married. But in the church, nobody can put you together because only the two of you can put yourselves together with the church doing its job of assisting you. So we must take note of that. So in determining the validity of a marriage for the declaration of nullity, so in declaring the marriage, you need to look at what makes marriage valid. What makes it valid? So that if it is not valid, then we say that marriage did not exist at all. Number one is what we call canonical form. Canonical form. Number two is what we call impediments. Number three is what we call defective consent. Adolfo wo Kristo mu kakra maka ne se aware eye ade a onyame na ehyehyɛ na onyame eso na ehyehyɛ a onipa entumi ensɛe no. Onipa de ne nsa ka aware a onyame ahyehyɛ a na ɔde ne nsa kɔka ade a ɛni sɛ ɔde ne nsa ka. Nti ɔsɔfo a ɔgyina waware anim no ɛnyɛ ɔsɔfo no na ɛware mu. Ɛyɛ mo ankasa na mo ware na mo ware wi a ɔsɔfo no wayɛ den wayi papa ntoma nani ana wapa aware nani no waka sɛ we osumesi ni osumesi ɔma yɛ den ɔma ware. Saaswa na sa aware no sɛ bi enye yie na sɛ yɛ pɛsɛ ebi a yegu no na sɛ mo mienu nyinaa sɛ obi anya ne kwan a asɔre entumi engu aware no. Ne mo asɔre betumi ahwɛ aware no ɔhwehwɛ mu a na wahu sɛ ei saa aware a ne nyinaa yɛdwen sɛ ɛyɛ aware no sɛ na ɛnyɛ den sɛ na ɛnyɛ aware na yɛbɛyɛ n'ani ehu sɛ aware bi a ne yɛdwen sɛ ɛyɛ aware no na ɛnyɛ den na ɛnyɛ aware nneɛma mmiɛnsa ɛna hia yɛn ɛno ne sɛ woyɛ Romani a yɛwɔ ɛkwan a yɛware obi a ɔyɛ dehye biara nim sɛnea ɔware nti wo a wonyɛ dehye no unim sɛnea ɔbɛware but yɛn deɛ yɛn Romafo de yɛ adehye anaasɛ obiara so woyɛ dehye woyɛ obia ɛyɛ dehye efilifie nti odehye biara no ɛwɔ sɛ wohu sɛdeɛ ɛwɔ sɛ woware ne ɛtɔ so mienu no sɛ ebia bibi esi kwan bibia esi kwan ne efe na impediment no ɛna de ɛtɔ so mmiɛnsa nso so ɛne ne sɛ bia pini na ogye yɛ no pini no na kyɛ sɛ endi mu yie pini na ogye yɛ no endi mu yie. So these are the three things that will cause the invalidity or the validity of the marriage. If there is canonical form, if there is no impediment, and when there is no defective consent. Now, what I need to also make something very clear here that children who are born in an invalid marriage, they are legitimate. Let's just say yewo akwala ewo aware bi a asori beka ekire say awai nya aware bi wa akwala bi a yewu no wom no oye akwala. It's just like any child born within an illegitimate marriage, the child is still the child of the two of them. What does it mean? It's like a man who goes to have a child outside the marriage. That child will be part of the marriage. So children cannot be touched. So don't bring the children in. Don't bring the children in. It is your child. Whether the marriage is declared null and void or whether it is divorced or what. As for children, you cannot touch them. And if you don't touch them, and some of us are on the line, or some of us may be there, you are going to marry and you may abandon your child. If you abandon your child, or like you abandon your wife, this is a natural responsibility. And as for that one, only God can talk about it. So if you abandon your wife, if you abandon your husband without any legitimate reason, that's why last week we did separation, and we saw that if you want to separate, you cannot do it yourself. It has to be legitimate, and you have to be helped to do that. The next one is that there are types of marriages that we need to know. There is a natural bond marriage. So you understand, when the natural bond is all marriages, including the marriage of Jews, Hindus, Muslim, traditional marriages, and all those things. In a natural marriage, at least one party is unbaptized or invalidly baptized. So that is the natural marriage. And then we also have sacramental marriage. Sacramental marriage is between two baptized Christians. Two baptized Christians. For example, if an Anglican and an Anglican marry, even in an Anglican church, it is sacrament. If the two of them, because they are baptized, because the Anglican baptism is accepted, that is what? A baptism. It is sacramental marriage. Two baptized persons, whether in the church or not. So when they have married like that, and they want to break their marriage, then you have to know that this is going to be a problem, a big problem. You need to go to the tribunal to solve it. And then we also have Catholic Sacramental Bond. That is between any marriage that is included one Catholic. Any marriage that is included, that a part is. So if a Catholic is included, then my brother, my sister, there is a particular way that has to be. I have told you, every Catholic is a royal. And I believe that even if you are not Catholic, you too, you are royal of your church. So find out what is the royal treatment there. But for us Catholics, there is a royal treatment. We are Romania, you will send a Roman for worry. So we are Santinina, we are Santini this year. You will send a Santi for this year, no worry. As it just said, you won't pay this year, no, puno. Unless you don't value your royalty, then you say that I don't care. In the name of marriage, I abandon my faith. That is up to you. I am not going to be the one to judge you, but I am only telling you, as long as you are Catholic, when you marry, there is a particular way that you have to marry because you are Catholic. And that is what will save you at the end of everything. So now I want to explain what is canonical form. What is canonical form? Now, you remember I said canonical form, the first thing, remember here, I said that the first thing that we need in determining the nullity of the marriage, whether the marriage is valid or not valid, the first thing we need to do is what? Canonical form. What is canonical form? That is what we shall do now. Canonical form establishes that if you are a Catholic, then when you are going to marry, the local ordinary, the marriage must be celebrated by the bishop or the vicar general. If the vicar general or the bishop is not there, then the marriage must be celebrated, or normally the bishop and the vicar general have power for all marriages within the diocese. Then the parish priest in which the marriage is being celebrated. That is why when you are from parish A and you want to go and marry in another place, you need permission from your parish priest to go and marry in another church, even if it is Catholic. Many people did not know that. They just think that, oh, this is a nice church, so I want to go and do that. No. And if the assistant priest is the assistant priest in the parish is given delegation, is delegated to do that, and if he is not delegated proper, your marriage is invalid. My dear brother, you need to note this. That is the reason why when a Catholic goes to marry outside the Catholic Church, where there is not a Catholic bishop, where there is not the Catholic vicar general or the Catholic parish priest, then you are dealing with an invalidity, except for special cases the bishop has given dispensation. And dispensation is what we call permission. It is the higher form of a permission. It is that which is not, it is given to relax the law. So otherwise, all Catholics, remember, so even if you are non-Catholic and you are listening to me, remember that if you are going to marry a Catholic and you marry the Catholic outside the Catholic Church, you have caused the Catholic to live in an invalid marriage, for which reason the Catholic cannot attend communion. Because he or she is Catholic and you desire to marry a Catholic, so you must respect the Catholic. Unless you, the Catholic, say that, me, I don't care, take your Catholic, I'm going. Well, it is up to you. But me, I know that what the Catholic Church teaches is that you cannot get it anywhere. And it will assure you. The next one is that this marriage must be assisted by a priest or a bishop. No, let me not say a priest. It must be assisted by the bishop or the parish priest. or anybody who has been properly delegated. If the person has not been delegated, but is a priest from another place, for example, I am a priest of St. Anthony's Catholic Church, the priest in charge of St. Anthony's Catholic Church. Then I go to St. John Fisher and I celebrate marriage there. I am not the pastor there. If the pastor does not give me permission and I celebrate the marriage is invalid. It is invalid. And when a priest like that celebrates your marriage for you, one day we may declare that marriage invalid. Okay, good. The next one is that if the marriage is to be celebrated, there must be at least 2 witnesses. Only 2 witnesses are needed for a Catholic or a sacramental marriage. But if that marriage is also a marriage of ordinance, then the law of the land requires 4 witnesses, 2 for the man, 2 for the women. But if you have already celebrated your ordinance and you are now coming to celebrate only a purely church marriage, we need 2. So it is the priest, the 2 of you, and then what? And then the 2 witnesses, 5. If it is the ordinance, 7. Any other person is jara, is extra. That's why I do not understand when you people, we make wedding and then you invite 1,000 people. Oh, Titanic marriages. Titanic marriages. We need to invite 1,000 people for your 10th anniversary. If you will be able to reach there. For your 25th anniversary, invite 2,000 people if you will be able to reach there. But you have not started. And right at the beginning of your marriage, you have already invited 500 people to come and witness your marriage that you do not know how you are going to go about it. Well, that is not why we are here today. Then the witnesses must follow the criteria that must follow the law. The next one is that when a Catholic or when we are dealing with non-Catholics, marriage in which both parties are not Catholics, when the 2 of them are not Catholics, then they are not bound. So I said that any marriage is bound by 3 things to be valid. 1, I said there must be canonical form. 2, there must not be any impediment. 3, the consent must not be defective. But when both of you are not Catholics, then you are not bound by what we call the canonical form. What is the canonical form? That means you are not bound to celebrate it in front of the Catholic minister. You can celebrate it anywhere you want because you are not Catholics and you are not bound by that. But if one of them is Catholic, then I declare it again. It must be before a Catholic minister, unless, and I repeat, unless the Catholic Church has given permission for the Catholic to celebrate it outside. But that one is between you and the bishop. Since I am not the bishop and I am only a teacher, I will not presume to say that I will be able to give you that permission. So if you are Catholic listening to me, you better note this one. So 1, you are not bound by canonical form. 2, you are not bound to follow any impediment that is purely a church impediment. I am going to explain very soon what is an impediment. And if any of these impediments exist before your marriage and you do not take it away and it still exists, when you contract a marriage with any of the impediments that I am about to say and you are Catholic, your marriage is invalid. If the 2 of you are not Catholics and what I'm saying is only a church law, then you are free. Your marriage is not invalid. So number 1, impediment number 1 is impediment of age. So for example, if you are a boy, according to the Catholic Church, if you are 16 years, you can marry if the law of the land also allows you. If you are a girl, you have to be 14 years. So in a country, if the country permits people to marry at 16, then you may marry if you are 16 years. If the laws of the country allows you to marry at 14, You know that we have a children marriage and all those things. If the law permits you to be lesser than 14 to marry, to be 14 years and above to marry, then. But if the country law does not, then you have to also respect the laws of the land. So that is what. So impediment. If your age is not correct, your marriage is also invalid. Number two, last week somebody asked the question about impotence, and I said we shall treat it this week. Yes, impotence. If a person is impotent, you know that impotence is not only for men. There are women also who can be impotent. So impotence is not only for men. If there are questions on that, you may want to ask. But if there is impotence, whether it is and it is an absolute impotence, if you are incapable of having penetration and having a full sexual intercourse, then it is you say that you are incapable of marriage. It means that even if you marry, that marriage is invalid. So people who are impotent cannot attempt marriage, or when they attempt marriage, they attempt it invalidly. So if you marry and it so happens that your partner is impotent before the marriage, then you know that yes. But if the impotence came after the marriage, then it is part of the package of marriage. Another impediment is what we call the ligament, prior bond. When a person is already married and he comes to marry you again, in court we call it bigamy in the civil law. But you know that here we're talking about prior bond. So when somebody is married, for example, I have told you that there is something we call natural marriage. So when two people are not Catholics, they are not Catholic, for example, and they are married traditionally, like the fact that the two of them are not baptized, you see that they are bound, they are married. When the person divorces or separates, be careful, you cannot marry them easily. So if you have any doubt, please go to the tribunal. Anytime you have to marry anybody who is previously married, please go to the tribunal and get it solved. Because when you marry a person like that, and if you are married and then it is found out later on that you were already married before you married in church, then that your old marriage can be declared null, and void. It is null. That means that it doesn't exist and it is void. It is empty. It has no effect. It doesn't null and void. It doesn't exist and it doesn't have a power. That is what the church is simply saying. Now we also have the impediment of sacred orders. People like the priest, people like deacons, people like bishops in the Catholic Church cannot attempt marriage. If they attempt marriage, that marriage is simply invalid, except the church has removed that the vow of sacred orders from you. If it has not removed it from you, when you attempt marriage, it is invalid. So somebody can leave the priesthood. Even if you leave the priesthood, you can't go and marry. It's the vow of celibacy will follow you until it has been removed from you. Again, we have the impediment of perpetual vow of chastity. A religious brother or a religious sister who has taken perpetual vow, also like the priest, may not attempt marriage. Then we have the impediment called crimen. It is anybody who tries to marry, or who the two people, you cause a crime. The two of you and your girlfriend, or you try to kill your wife so that you and your girlfriend can marry. You cause a crime to your other partner so that you can marry the other one. No way. Even if nobody sees it, the marriage is what? Is invalid. So you can't go and kill somebody's partner. So that there are women who do that. There are men who do that. You just go and kill another partner so that you can marry. Whether you kill the person spiritually or you kill the person physically, if you are the cause of the death of the other person and you marry his or her spouse, then that marriage is simply invalid. The next one is abduction. Abduction is if a man abducts a person, somebody abducts you, then you are going to be in the person's possession, and then the person now wants to marry you. No way. When you are going to marry, you have to be free. So anybody who was forced into marriage, no way, it's not marriage. When you want to leave, go to the tribunal, you may be asked to leave. Another impediment is called affinity. Affinity is that when you are in a marriage where you are marrying the members, a man who is marrying from his wife's family. A man who is marrying from his wife's family. There's a way of calculating it. So once again, it is also to curb some men when they see that, or even a woman marrying from a man's, family that you are married to. All these things, it is according to a certain degree. I shall not be able to use this forum to explain, but all that you need to know right now is that in case you are married to a partner and then the marriage breaks down and you want to now marry from the same family, please make sure, check yourself before you are going to get into trouble. Then we also have the impediment of public propriety. That is what we call notorious concubinage. There are certain people who are living as husband and wife, and then all of a sudden they want to go and they leave the person to go and marry. Meanwhile, you have been with this other person for 15 years. You have wasted the person's time, and then you meet a new one, you say, I'm going. If there is damages to be settled, the church will not marry the two of you until you have settled damages and all things that needs to be done. Because people cannot play on people's emotions just for that. It is a serious thing to do, and that's what a lot of people do. They play with the men, they play with the women, and when they are finished, then they go and have their own marriage. Then again, we have what we call the impediment of the legal adoption. When you have adopted somebody as your daughter or your son, you cannot marry the person because you have married the. So spiritually, when you marry, you make the person. You can't marry your legally adopted father. No. You can't marry your legal adopted mother. You can't marry your legal adopted child. No way. If it has to happen, go to the tribunal to settle it before you are able to come in. Okay, then also have we call consanguinity, which I forgot to also put it on the slide. Consanguinity deals with blood relationship. Anybody who is of your blood relationship, if you are going to marry that person, please go and seek permission. And if you are already married to your blood relationship, that marriage, remember, can be declared null. For example, clear in a case of incest can be declared null and void. Simple. Okay. Then the area that we deal with here in our last area, that's the third area, is defective consent. What is consent? The agreement, the man and the woman, what you say, what you declare to each other, that is what actually makes the marriage. That one, if there is a sickness in there, then there can be a problem. How can there be a sickness in there? Consent is what makes marriage. But you see, when you are speaking, there can be so many things in your head. You know that when a person is drunk, you cannot make a contract. The same way, when your mind and your faculties are not present, you cannot establish marriage. So if it can be proven that you were not sound at the time of the marriage, then your marriage can be declared null and void. So what am I saying? However, certain people are not capable of truly giving consent. So this first part is they are not capable. How do I say some people are not capable? One, because of some psychological obstacle. Maybe as a result of the way you were brought up, as a result of a sickness or anything, but there is a psychological obstacle and it is not making you capable. So if that was existing before the marriage, yes, then you are not in a state to be able to have a contract of marriage. Then 2, error or condition. Maybe you made a mistake, error that is substantial, that could have, maybe you want to marry a doctor. The person tells you, no, people can tell lies. You want to marry a doctor. You said, I want to marry a doctor. Medical doctor is what you want. And the person comes to you and says that, look, I am a doctor. Before you realize, oh, he said doctor, not doctor medicine, but doctor book. You understand? And you get, in all your life, you can prove that all you wanted to do is to marry a doctor. The person has deceived you, or you make a condition that is to be fulfilled in the future. That does not, no, you don't marry out of condition. You marry because you want to marry. Then again, you see, lack of freedom. There are so many people who married because of pregnancy, force and fear. Dada say, mother say, pregnancy, shotgun marriage. These can declare your marriage null and void. Then there are others who are capable of giving the consent, but they purposefully withhold some essential things from their consent, or attach their consent to some external factors. Example, somebody wants to marry, but says that me, I am marrying, but I won't give birth. You want to be able to have intercourse, but you declare you won't give birth. Are you God? Then you are not ready for marriage. That such a person did not enter. Some people, they want to marry, but whilst they are marrying, they declare themselves that me, I am marrying you. But when it is time for me to leave, if you don't do this, I will leave you. And it can be proven, yes. There are some people, while they are marrying, yes, they don't have another partner, but they are keeping their relation. So all these things can happen. So they intentionally withhold an essential property of marriage right before they married. If it can be proven, then such a marriage is not valid. I go and repeat the point. My dear brothers, my dear sisters, today we are bringing this whole question about so-called annulment to a close. Divorce, separation, and annulment, so to speak. But we know that it is called declaration of nullity to an end. If there is a problem of the canonical form, that is, if you are Catholic and you don't marry according to the Catholic way, your marriage is invalid. 2, if there is any of the impediments that I talked about before the marriage, that marriage doesn't exist. 3, if the consent, the yes that you gave was defective, it was sick, it had and it was not correct, then that marriage can be declared null. But I will not be able to declare your marriages null and void on this platform. I am only explaining to you. Details of it, you need to come to the tribunal. I shall now open the lines to take your questions on so-called annulment. Thank you very much for your time, and I want to believe that we have learned something small from this session. Thank you once again. We shall now take your questions if you have them. Questions, please. If you want to ask your question verbally, you can just show a sign or send a text and just say question. You want to talk, just say talk and then send a text message or anything. Just let me know that you are there, and then I can now make sure that you are there. Okay. Is there anybody who wants to ask a question? Okay. I see that Benjamin, co-host Benjamin Anaboik wants to ask a question. Co-host, can you unmute Benjamin? Do we have Benjamin? Benjamin, are you there? Okay. Meanwhile, as we wait for Benjamin, somebody has asked the question. Co-host, can you let Benjamin ask the question. Somebody has asked the question, Father, please. Okay. Benjamin.
If he can raise his hand.
Yeah, Benjamin. It's okay. It's anaboic. Go to anaboic. It's A. Okay. Please, Father, if your partner said, don't understand what the consent was before the language barrier, what can I do? I don't get the question, please. The one who sent the question, Emmanuel, can you resend your question? I don't get you, please. Okay, Benjamin, you are online. Can you please ask your question?
Yes, Father. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Please ask your question.
Yes, my question is, yes, my question is, I understand in the Catholic Church, we are not supposed to have sex before marriage. And then on the basis of the impotency, how could one identify that he or she is impotent before even getting to that marriage?
I think this question is more medical than church. Because if there is to determine if a person has, then that brings us also to, if you ask those who are married, how many of them had medical exams before they decided even, or whilst they were at counseling? How many of them had, how many of them went for medical exams? It's just a handful, or maybe just a few, because you need to go for medical exams to be able to help yourself, even to determine your genotype and all those things, to find out whether you are sickling and all those things. They would help. But these are things that will be proven medically. So it is not the church to be able to. So you don't need to go and test yourselves with somebody to be able to see that you are impotent. I don't think that's no. So there are ways of doing that. And I'm sure the medical doctors will be able to help you in that field to know whether you are, especially for the man. For the woman, it is easy because a woman's impotency is inability to receive the male sexual organ, inability for the woman to receive any male sexual organ. And the sexual organ, that the vagina, will be used only for the so-called urinating for that. That is a rare occasion. And there are some people too who, out of rape for women, some women who have been raped, they become, for some reason, their organ will not permit penetration. So it will not permit penetration any longer. Then it becomes a permanent feature or a temporary feature, but they can't have. In that case, it will be difficult for them to also have marry, for them to marry. Okay. Now I think there are also questions here. Good evening, Father. I am Derek from France. Okay. I am in a Church of Christ. I am a Church of Christ member. My girlfriend is Catholic. Please, is our marriage going to be valid if we marry in the Catholic Church? Thank you. Please, is our marriage going to be valid if we marry in the Catholic Church? Yes, Derek, your marriage will be properly valid, but the person who is going to marry you, even within the Catholic Church, must be one who has proper delegation, because marriage is so important that even the person to marry you, so not any priest can marry you. Sometimes some of us, we have a priest say, I want Father Raymond to come and celebrate my marriage for me. So you invite Father Raymond to come. Maybe Father Raymond has come, but Father Raymond does not have the delegation of the priest in charge. If Father Raymond celebrates it for you, Father Raymond is a Catholic priest, but your marriage is invalid. So it is necessary that not just in the Catholic Church, but before somebody who has proper delegation, even as a priest. Thank you very much. Another person is asking the question, Father, what if any of the parents are not in favor of the marriage? Can the church proceed with the marriage? The answer is yes. The marriage can be, you can proceed with the marriage. Remember, I told you that marriage is not for boys and girls. Boys need parental permission. They need permission. Girls need permission. But if you are 18 and above, you are an adult. So you need to now dialogue with your parents. You need to dialogue with your parents. But in case the church finds out that your parents are being unrealistic about giving their consent, in fact, they cannot give their consent because they don't have the consent. When it is traditional marriage, parents give their consent. When it is in the sacramental marriage, they give their consent to themselves. They can say, I don't agree. And they have a legitimate right to say that. And they have to say it. If they don't agree, they don't agree. But they cannot say that their consent is going to determine your marriage. However, before you would disobey your parents and their consent, you must pray about it. You must think it through. You must know very well that what you are doing is right. And if you have thought of it and prayed about it and you know it's right, then the parents will not be able to stop you. Thank you there. Another person is asking, Father, if a marriage is annulled by the church, and I like it, the person says annulled. I think you are a good student, Kojo. You are a very good student. Okay. If the marriage is annulled, is the marriage automatically dissolved by the state as well? No. Or one has to go to the court for the divorce? Yes. Very true. So if you have the so-called annulment in the church, you also need the divorce in court. That is why I told you that when somebody has divorce in court, the person may go for communion because the person, but if you have divorce and remarriage, that's when there is a problem. I think the issue about divorce, I have explained too much, so I will not go into that. Somebody is asking the question, please, Father Raymond, on the issue of impotence, what if the other partner was aware of the condition? In that case, will the annulment still be considered invalid? Remember that I said the annulment there's nothing like annulment. So that, and by the way, when the person is impotent, the person only attempts marriage, so was never married and can never ever marry. The moment you discover that the person was married, you just go to the court and the court will just declare. It will declare it because you have discovered a fact, and the facts are sacred. You cannot do anything about it. So once the person is impotent, the person cannot. The person can do anything, but you cannot marry. Okay, so that is sadly the reality. Okay. Somebody asked the question, is there anybody online? Okay. Does the declaration of nullity mean that there was no marriage in the eyes of God and man? The answer is yes. The answer is categorical yes. When the church declares that this marriage is declared null, it means that it was not accepted, because for example, you are married, or you are married and you hate the marriage and go and marry another person. How is that? So all of us were deceived. We were deceived into thinking that you were married. So once we discover it, we say, sorry, you can't. So God never blessed that marriage. That's what it means. It was never a marriage in the first place. Okay. Somebody also asked the question, please, Father, I realize that the Catholics don't have garden. I realize that Catholics don't have garden and other outdoor wedding. Okay, other than like in the other church. Does it have to do with the canon law? Yes. Please, Sometimes I ask the question, people want to do their marriages in the garden, and I ask them, are you Adam and Eve? Or you want to go to do it at the beach? You see, ask yourself, when you want to do tradition, even the traditional marriage, do you just do it anywhere? There is a place where you do the traditional marriage. When there is the need, you see, there is what we call sacred space. Marriage is a sacred union, and you are going to establish it. In fact, you cannot even just say that you are going to celebrate your marriage at a grotto. No, the grotto is not a place that has been designated for marriages. Marriages are sacred. Don't go and do your marriage at a hall. Don't go and do your marriage at the beach. Don't go and do your marriage in the garden. Why? Is it a reception or it's a marriage? If you finish, go ahead. Reception. That's why when we build a church, there is a church and there is a parish hall. Why would you want to celebrate your marriage in the parish hall and then go and have the reception in the church? No. Then if you have your marriage in the garden, then when it is time for the reception, go and do it in the church. No, you see, it won't work. There is a place for everything. There is a time for everything. And that is what it says. So please do not, no. If you are Catholic and you want to marry at a place where it is a religious space dedicated for religious functions and purposes, not gardens where people go and do all those abingwaha and everything, and then afterwards you go and do it. No. Please, no means no. Okay. Unless if you are not Catholic and you want to do it the way you want, I told you that one, you are free. But when you marry, remember, it will touch you. Okay. You can't, and if you want to marry a Catholic, then be careful. Okay. Sorry. I meant, will the marriage still be considered invalid? Yeah, okay, yeah. The marriage is once there is impotence and it can be declared, that it can be seen that the impotence existed prior to the marriage does not exist. All the church needs to do is to declare it. What about if I am impotent and I decide and I tell my wife to be that, look, I am impotent, but let's marry? Is that also marriage? No. You cannot, once there is the impotence, you are not capable of marriage. It is the hard truth. So the two of you cannot decide that, even though I am impotent, let's keep quiet and let's marry. No, it doesn't exist. It is a deception before God. Okay. And deception is a big sin. Somebody says that, please, Father, would the church conduct a wedding if the traditional marriage was not done? Yes, the church may conduct a marriage even if the traditional marriage was not done. Remember that not everybody who is Catholic celebrates traditional marriage. If if you marry somebody from Europe and a man, an African marries an European, where are you going to do the traditional marriage? In the home of the woman who is not. So you may do a traditional ceremony, but because the man is going to marry the woman, and in the woman's tradition, there is nothing like traditional marriage. So traditional marriage is not a must, but it is respected, highly respected, if you are African. But if for any reason it has to be taken away, then you need a dispensation. The bishop would have to give, the grandfather of the diocese will have to give the permission before we do that. It's to ensure that we don't treat the traditional practice with disdain. We respect the traditional practice, but it is not a condition sine qua non, meaning that we cannot do without. Okay. Somebody says that, I am not Catholic. He is Catholic. He says we can't do without marrying in his church. I also want to have the marriage in my church. Now, he says no. He says no, it's against the Catholic law. Can you assist us in any way? Well, I may be able to assist you if this is also taken from this public space so that we will be able to deal with a direct issue. However, remember that both of you are adults. And if you cannot come to an agreement such which is important like this, then you have to ask yourself, what are you doing? You have to ask yourself. You should be able to resolve this as adults because there are two interested parties here and begin to know what comes before what. But I know that what I have taught clearly is that the Catholic is bound by the Catholic law, which existed even before any other church came with its own law. So I don't know that because other churches have come with their laws, or because of that, the Catholic Church should throw away its laws. I don't know. But I don't think the Catholic Church law would ever go because any church has also made its law. No way. It came and it was there. So I want to ask you, is it your church law that you have to marry in your does it have a law? Does your church have a law as a law, or it is just a preference? These are things that we have to look at. But I can assist you in other ways that are possible that I would probably not want to talk about it on air like this. Okay, thank you. Another question says that, Father, please, if your partner said she didn't understand what marriage consent was, but she just repeated it after the parish priest at the marriage, please, what can you do to help her? Well, if she clearly says that she didn't, in some cases, you have to re-celebrate the marriage.
It's 21 hours.
The vows. I mean, when I say re-celebrate the marriage, I don't mean do party. A lot of you would think, hey, Father, another party, because you think that party makes marriage. No, marriage means the consent will have to be said, will have to go through again. But yes, or if the person out of that wants to leave, it's up to the person to take the issue to the court. It will be up to the tribunal to declare whether truly she didn't really mean what she said, and she has to prove it. You have to prove. Remember, they say that he who accused must prove. So when you say that you didn't, then prove it, and let's see. Okay. Somebody says, good evening, Father. My question is, can someone come straight to the church to marry without doing the traditional marriage? Yes, I think I have answered this question in a way. I've answered it in a way. Okay, very, very clearly. The answer is yes and a no. I mean, it's yes, but with caution. Yes, it can happen. It may happen. Okay. Please, Father, how long does it take averagely for the church to annul? Well, I think that averagely it will be within a year or a year and a half, depending on a lot of factors: the investigation, the availability of the tribunal staff, how early you gather the facts and things like that. But my dear brother, my sister, if you start with how long, then we are not going. It is whether are we going to do a good job. Quality is what I will go for. Quality. Okay. Another person says that in annulment, what if the priest who celebrated the marriage and witnessed the death and witnesses are dead? Which other evidence can the church or the tribunal fall on? By the way, remember that no priest has celebrated marriage before. So be careful. No priest celebrated marriage. No priest celebrate marriage. Priests celebrate mass. Couples celebrate their marriages. 2, if the couples are dead, they have signed and it is there. Other people knew them. If the priest who assisted at the marriage is also dead, there are documents. The document is there. There's what we call the dossier, which is your document or your file, which has everything. So, the Catholic Church is very meticulous with these things. Another person says, good evening, Father. My question is, can someone, okay, I think we have answered that one, someone about that one. After the marriage ceremony, Must I take the marriage certificate that was signed in the church back to the local government? And if it has not been sent, is the marriage still legal and recognized? I have told you that the church and the ordinance are two separate things. The signing in the church has nothing to do with the church. It is only an ordinance requirement. For a Catholic marriage, we don't need signing, but the signing we do is for the ordinance. For the Catholic marriage, when the two of you speak to each other, I take you to be my lawful wife, for better, for worse, from that moment, marriage has taken place. I think that we have taken a few questions now. I would want to bring it. Okay, let me see. Father, please, if a man is impotent but wants to marry for other reasons, no. I've said if the person is married, then no means no. It's not that I'm saying no. I'm saying the person is incapable. So don't try, don't go there. Is gambling a ground for annulment? Depending on what you are talking about, but as a ground, no. But it may play into another. For example, if a person is gambling as a result of a psychological problem, so the gambling is the manifesting symptom, but the person's real problem is a psychological problem. So it's not gambling per se, but gambling is only leading us to a real problem. So gambling as gambling, no, but it can lead us somewhere. Father, can your marriage be allowed to be annulled if the marriage was never consummated? If the marriage was never consummated, well, if it was not consummated, then it was not fully married. But there is a process of dissolving ratified and non-consummated marriage. So that is also another thing that I have not treated for today. For another person says, I heard it needs to be gazetted. So if it is not, does it mean that the marriage does not exist? Well, in all Catholic churches where marriages takes place, the churches have been gazetted already before you go and do it there. So it's once you do it there with the right minister, I tell you, you are married. Can one get an annulment if you were not married in the Catholic Church? Why is it that we keep on using the annulment? Can one get declaration of nullity? I use the word annulment only because that's what we want. But I think that after these lessons, we should use very technical words to show that, yes, I have taught something small. Okay, so, okay. Can one get the declaration of nullity? I'm changing your words. If you were not married in a Catholic church, yes, even if you were not married in a Catholic church, two people who married in an Anglican or Presby or any other church, and if the marriage has broken down, and now one of them wants to marry a Catholic or doesn't want to marry a Catholic, or you can take it to the tribunal, yes, for you to get the declaration of nullity. Why not? Remember, it is a Catholic church. Everybody is Catholic. Everybody is Catholic. Even Muslims are Catholics. Wow. It's Catholic. Everyone, all of them, or every one of us. So you have a right. Yeah. Okay. Because it is about, you're talking about the Church of Christ, which is the Catholic Church. Okay. Is it possible for couples to discuss annulment? Why not? Yes. Why? They are adults. Yes. Do both parties have to agree to the annulment before going to the tribunal? Not necessarily. If the annulment is a fact, so you don't need consent. It's a fact. So once the fact exists, nobody can deal with it. I don't need permission to declare a fact. No. Does infidelity also render marriage invalid? No. Infidelity, infertility, not infidelity. Infertility does not render marriage invalid. Only impotence. Thank you very much. And then I am able to read my last question. Is it necessary for Reverend Father to be part in the traditional marriage? Well, don't take us to the traditional marriage. Let's stay with this marriage here. Okay, yeah. Why is no consummation a ground? Why is non-consummation a ground for nullity of marriage? Well, once the marriage is celebrated, it has to be consummated. Once it has not been consummated, then it is not. It's like saying that it's like when President Akufo-Addo wins the election and Akufo-Addo has not been sworn in as president, are you going to say that he is president? He's not president. He has won the election, but he's not president. So when you celebrate it in church, you have only won the election. When you have the first intercourse after the marriage, then you have done the swearing in. And those are things that we can talk about in another day. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for everything.